Okay, we're getting some more people trickling in here. We're going to wait until the top of the hour before we begin. Please join us in this little interactive part. If you have a cell phone, bring out the cell phone and take a picture of that blocky black and white thing. That will navigate you to a poll that we're going to use to get started here in the warm-up. You can also use a web browser, just slido.com, and you punch in that 5-digit code at the bottom left, and you can kind of share, become more active here. We're going to have a couple of more questions as well in this little poll as soon as we get more people coming in. You should call it Agile German. Don't let me try to use Swedish. Yeah, but there's some Swedish words that are very similar to German words. So Agile German, I don't know. What about the German affiliates in Roche, Christian? Where are they at in the transformation? That's going to be a part of your talk?
I won't really cover that, but I think I'm happy to share. It's obviously a much bigger size in the German affiliate. I think my guess is that they're 10 times the size we have in Sweden, and I don't think size is always that important. But I think in terms of transformation and culture change, obviously it's a slightly bigger task than we done in our part of the world, but. What I've heard, we interact quite frequently. They certainly getting there. I think there is a cultural thing that not saying anyone is bad or good, but they have a slightly different twist on how we done it. But it's I would say a few words that there is a global transformation going on. So every part of the Roche affiliates or countries is in transforming, but everyone does it in their own way. I think that's really cool in a global organization that we have to be able to tailor and define your own journey. And the Germans done that, and we done it in Sweden, and a lot of. I had a chat with Saudi Arabia today. I had a chat with Hungary yesterday, South America last week. So it's so I would say encouraging to see how you can do the same kind of or have the same ambitions, but do it in so many different ways. So it's
yeah, I agree. I mean, before I worked with you guys, like a year ago, I didn't really know much about Roche at all. I understand it's an enormous multinational, one of these big super mega pharmas, right? So, and I honestly don't know all the countries that Roche is supported, but I can imagine it's most of the world almost, or at least where people use your treatments and diagnostics tools, right? But it's also so cool because I understand that it's a really important part of this transformation journey, like the approach that Roche has, selected to have is that just that local mandate to try and drive your own part of the transformation was really intrinsic part of it, wasn't it?
Yeah, no, I agree, and I think you feel empowered, you feel listened to, and I think it's not that we know better than anyone else in Sweden, but obviously we know our market, we know our people, and to be able to tailor the journey together with our external and internal stakeholders, I think it's much more encouraging than getting a memo from the senior headquarters saying this is what you should do. I think that usually is the case. I would say when you tell people to change or transform, saying this is what we expect, and we've done it exactly opposite here. Let's listen, let's understand, and then do what we think is the best. So and obviously I will share that today.
Yeah, I understand. I know we're peeking ahead, but I know that's going to be part of what you're going to bring up, like the not to give things away, but more like the bringing in a bit of innocence and openness to kind of, what should I say, authentically acknowledge that we are going to learn a lot of stuff here that we probably don't know yet, and also that it has to be part of the local initiative to drive this. Otherwise, we can't. Like, the end state we want to get to is that the local affiliates can drive their own customer-centered transformation, right? So starting in the polar opposite end of mandating everything would kind of be counterproductive too. And I guess that's one of the kind of like hen or egg kind of problems that you might, or traps maybe you could say, that it's possible to fall into, right?
Yeah, I agree. And I think again, there is a tendency in the world, and I'm not the expert, but I think to go for these quick wins. We saw it differently. We see long-term benefits, and obviously we were prepared, and that will be part of the story too, to invest time and energy. And I don't think you can obviously gain quick wins by telling people do this, but the sustainability of that, and then the long term, I see risks in controlling, demanding. We went for another journey by empowering, listening, sensing, being curious, and I think that is, hopefully, we have not the full answer yet, but hopefully more sustainable, and I would say for sure much more engaging. And for me, engagement is a key driver for actually being successful. I read somewhere about 80 to 85% of all transformations are not successful, and I think part of that is that it's too much definition from beginning, too much this needs to happen quickly, or this is necessary, and I think by applying that, we or learning from that, we could do differently.
Okay, we're getting people falling in. We have 60 people already. So all of you who are arriving late, please join us in answering this warm-up. We kind of have a bit of a warm-up session. We'll begin here shortly, but bring up your cell phone, take a photo of this little black and white box at the top left of the screen, or use a web browser to go to slido.com and punch in those five digits at the end, 77880, and join us. So question right now, what made you decide to join this webinar? That's interesting for us to know, for Christian to kind of, show a little bit about what your interests are. We're going to have one more question after this, and then we're going to jump right into the seminar. So I'll give you a minute to kind of share something here, and then we'll continue. So while we're doing this, I can tell you something about CRISP. I think most of you have heard about CRISP, but if you haven't, we're an Agile consultancy company. We work with Agile transformation, but we do a lot of other stuff as well. We've been around for a pretty long time. We're 30 plus consultants. We're fully participatory owned. Basically, if you participate in CRISP, you can eventually become an owner. And if you stop being involved with CRISP, you kind of step out of ownership. We don't really make profit at the top level. It's more like a platform for the individual consultants, but we've been part of the Agile community for a very long time. And we do product leadership courses. We offer courses, we offer consultancy, and we also offer technical expertise. So we have a lot of really strong architects and developers, but we've been part of Agile and product leadership consultancy and training for a very long time. So check us out on our website. Okay, so let's see here. It's coming in here. New ideas. We start our own Agile evolution, digital transformation. What else do you see here, Christian? Anything that stands out for you?
No, it's a lot around agility. Obviously, that would be a key theme. I don't hope I will disappoint anyone, but I won't teach anyone, Agile acronyms or tools. I was more saying how we apply them. That would be the story of today. I'm happy to share exactly what we do in terms of Agile tools, but to be honest, this for me, there is so much more than these are very much Agile. Applying Agile will be really the key of today.
So the next question is, in one word, what's the first thing you think about when you hear the phrase Agile transformation? This one is going to be a bit of a word cloud. Christian is already smiling. Yeah, you recognize some things, I guess. And horror, knattefootball. That's like small kids playing soccer, everybody chasing the ball.
It's in a big kind of group. Yeah, no.
Oh my God.
I love
top-down
that
approach. Change. Oh my God.
Yeah.
What do you see, Christian?
No, I agree. I see a lot of things that I reckon. The first thing that I think showed up was this never finished. That's a big debate that we have currently, saying, well, do we ever finish this? Should we call it transition instead of transformation at some point? When do you iterate? When do you know? And I think again, that's both the beauty and the difficulties here. Saying, I think we will share what we've seen, what we've done, and the early impacts that we are recognized. But obviously, there's constant learnings into this and constant need for looking into do we need to amend or iterate. But I think a transformation for me, that can probably be a finish somewhere. At some point you are where you need to be, and then you just work in it instead of because we've done a completely change. I think that's difficult to do over and over and over again.
Okay, last question before we get started. This is good input for Christian. He's able to tailor things during this talk. So if there's something you're curious to hear more about, just let us know, and then we'll jump right in. I should say this, Christian, you're not the type of guy that's gonna blow your own horn, I guess, but Christian has shared this type of lessons and his experience about transformation at Roche. I don't know how many times, 30, 40 times, 50 times, and a lot of context. So don't be afraid to ask for something specific. And I should say that as well, when we're done with the seminar talk, like the webinar, because Christian is going to basically share stuff for about, let's say, an hour or so. And then we're going to have a long time block at the end where there's plenty of time to ask specific questions. So please, during the talk, ask questions using Slido, this tool right now. There's a second tab at the top that says Q&A. You can also ask your questions there. You can also ask questions in the chat, and I'll try to collect everything as we go. But yeah, Christian, how many times have you shared your experience from Roche so far?
Oh, it is a good question. I think, and it depends a bit. Obviously, the whole story hasn't been told that many times. I would say maybe 8 or 10 times. But I shared elements of it, especially within our community, meaning Roche and a few other pharmaceutical companies. Some pharmacies changed, but also in other settings. On Agile communities, there could be leadership, it could be culture change, it could be how the operating model look like today and the change to be done. So it's been, I think I've probably done hundreds of presentations, but it's quite rare that I do the whole kind of journey. I think, again, I've tailored that for today. But I'm
Okay.
I'm Christian. I try to share. I think that's a big part of my personality and a big part of the Roche community. So we believe that if we can inspire and help others, the world hopefully gets a bit better.
Okay, lessons learned, mistakes, success, pitfalls, best practices, what went wrong, obstacles, experience hands-on, reward performance, transitioning roles. I think anything that stands out, Christian, I'll just gonna leave it to you now. Again, very much welcome to this webinar. We're gonna record this, so you're aware, we're gonna try to share this on the YouTube channel that Chris has. But if you didn't know, Christian Feinberg, he is part of Roche, has been for many years, and been part of pharmaceutical business for 15 or so. Yeah, I've been a part of this transformation to some extent. So I've been recruited by Christian to work with the Swedish affiliate in some aspects, but this has primarily been an effort driven by the Roche leadership in different forms and in different ways. So I think this is a great opportunity to learn from a big transformation, but also what can be done at the local initiative. And Christian has been a part of this from the beginning all the way to the end. And I'm super happy to be able to present to you and share for you to share your lessons with the CRISP community. So I'm just going to stop sharing here and turn the attention over to you, Christian.
Cool. So thank you, Matthias, for inviting me. Thank you all that has joined us this, at least in Sweden, afternoon. There might be other time zones. I need to be able to share my screen. It says host disabled participant screen sharing. So Matthias, could you please turn it on? Now, and you're on mute. That's the probably the most said phrase.
How about now?
Let me see. Yeah. Cool. And I hope you can see my screen. I put it up on slide. Yep. Cool.
Yeah.
So welcome everyone. I'm really happy to be here. I'm really happy to be able to share our journey. I would say I have one clear objective. It's to inspire. I think there's no journey that you can copy, no journey that you say this fits exactly for us. But my intention this afternoon is to at least inspire how you can either start, how you can find some ideas for your own transformation, or how you can see that Agile is possible to apply in a big regulated market and company. So very little about myself. That's not anything important. I'm Christian. I'm working for Roche Sweden. My role is I'm an agnostic coach. Let's not go into that, but I'm working as a lead for the non-oncology portfolio. We have oncology and we have everything else, and I'm the lead for the rest. And I'm also, which is I think the key for this session, transformation lead. I'm not the one that done all of this. This is a big company effort. I'm just the spokesperson. I'm good at that. I like to share, but there should be a credit to, I think, all 90 people in the organization, because all of them contributed to this change that we actually have pulled through. And my kind of key interest areas are, I'm really fascinated about networking. I'm part of many global networks to be able to learn, share, quickly move around ideas. I worked in commercial roles for the last 20 years in pharma, so obviously I'm very keen to see how can we build outstanding customer experience. I've been a people leader 15 of those 20 years, meaning don't say I'm excellent at that, but I'm a true believer that leadership and empowerment are key parts of an agile culture. And I think, again, a key part of myself is I'm really looking to say what is the change out there and how can we adapt. And my kind of key theme is that I'm a very little person in the world. I need all of you, and we need all of us together to achieve those magic things. This is the agenda I put for tonight. I saw some requirements. I won't maybe cover all of those, but let's take those in the Q&A. So I will give a very, very brief introduction to Roche. I think it's important to tell where did we start? Where did we come from? And why did we select an agile transformation? And then there will be a few words around the journey that we have taken. And then I would say I focus most of my time today to show examples and show how we worked with the company culture, with our people, and with our leadership that are key elements of this agile transformation. And I will end the presentation with a couple of examples of impacts that we've seen based on this change. I hope that meets some of your expectations and that we can then in the Q&A cover the others. So very brief about Roche. Some of you might know Roche. Some of you probably never heard about it. It's actually the world's largest biotech company, founded in 1896. So next year we'll be 125 years old. We are massive, 95,000 people. We invest 110 billion SEK every year in research and development. And some years that's actually the highest number, all companies, all industries. And some years we are top 5. Doesn't really matter, we invest heavily. That's our industry's kind of future. We need to force innovation into our organization. We don't put research in stuff that already exists. We only go for new innovations. And we are covering the whole world. In Sweden, we were established. I wasn't there by then, but we were established 1936, and we actually have 2 companies in Sweden. We have the Roche AB, which I represent, which is the pharmaceutical side, and we have a diagnostics division. We sit together in Solna, in Stockholm, and we work as 2 companies, but we work very closely together. This journey that I will tell about today is the Roche AB, the pharma division journey. There are elements that we have included in DIA, and DIA also have separate transformational activities. And the last thing I would say about Roche, we work in a number of different, what we call therapeutic areas, meaning areas where there are diseases. And the ones currently that are in our focus is cancer, neurology, rare diseases, gene therapies, etc. You see them down there. Obviously, we do what our headquarters give us as assets, meaning they do the research, we do research in Sweden, but that's then supporting the global organization. So that's about Roche. So a bit of a background. Where did we start? So again, we were back in 2018, amazing 115 colleagues. We were really successful. We were just growing and growing, and that has happened for the last 15 years. In our industry, I think the average launch per company is probably 1 or 2 major launches per year. We had a good success in our research, so we were supported by at least 3 or 4 major product launches every year. There was great focus on innovation. We were highly appreciated by our customers, and even our people loved to work for us. So you could say, why? This sounds amazing, and it was. The problem, and that's the flip side when you have success, is that you start slowly, gradually to build, at least we did, processes to control, because there was so much good things happening. So we wanted to have an overview of those. We had a lot of planning starting up. Those plannings created a lot of internal meetings. We had all the resources in the world, so we started to become slightly too ambitious when we created activities for our customers. The word perfection. We were growing, so we were starting to work in silos, and you do that, I do this. Let's work separately. And I think again, I'm part of that, so I probably throw stone in a glass house now. But more or less all career development was hierarchical, meaning that if you did well, if you performed well, you could advance as a manager or a senior manager. Meaning that we obviously pulled through some good people, but not all of those were probably suitable for managerial level. So I would say everything has 2 sides. Success, great things happened, but sadly, I would say, and there is a fat cat, and I know probably there are some colleagues on the call. Don't take it personal, but I think if I look back, we were a bit to this kind of, we are so great, we know this. Let's do another meeting and plan what we should do, and instead of really changing. So that was the starting point, saying there is something here we need to adjust. On top of that, and I think this is where a lot of us are today. COVID is here, but there always will be change in the external environment. So in our case, healthcare in Sweden, I think in many countries as well, is changing. There's high pressure on costs. That's private initiatives and insurances raising. That hasn't been the case in Sweden before. We have shorter product life cycles, meaning there are more competition coming into our fields, etc. And COVID obviously is there. A lot of new innovation is happening in the world. AI, digitalization, a big thing in our part of therapeutic areas is combination therapies, where you combine not only 1 and 2, maybe 3 different therapies to attack a cancer form or something else. And obviously, I shared that a bit in the pre-talk. We were not told, but we were at least guided by a global organization. Guys, we can see possibility for improvement. How about simplify a bit more? How about finding ways to improve the speed, and how can we maybe empower people to really make the potential of all assets that we have? So internally, great success, but a bit, internally focused. A lot of changes in the global environment and the local environment. So the starting point for this was actually to form around a common purpose. I think that's, if you read literature, that's a key part of directing your energy. And this is not a local vision. This is more of a global. But that was work done that we were included into. So the North Star of Roche today is to deliver better outcomes for more patients faster. So you have the better outcomes, you have the more patients, and you have the speed, the faster. And the 10-year kind of ambition that we have, which I think is amazingly inspiring, is to leverage 3 to 5 times more benefit for patients, meaning innovation reaching the patient, to half the cost of society. It sounds like impossible. It sounds like how do you do that? And that's exactly what we're aiming for. We go for that ambition to really find ways of doing things smoother, simpler, but to add more benefit to the society. And we come quite far, I would say. And again, the agile transformation is not the final, but a key step to trigger even more initiatives in this direction. And the last thing, just to set the scene, is like we saw this opportunity. We felt we were great. We want to be exceptional. Who doesn't want to be that? And the key part of this was really to see how can we free up the focus to external opportunities, to be able to take more bold actions. And I think a key part that I think daily discuss, our ambition is to unleash the full potential of our people. And what do we mean with that? We mean that we want everyone in an organization to be the best self every day. If there's a barrier that we can fix, we fix that barrier. We remove stuff that holds people back. And I won't share the structure in details today, but that's been part of it. But a lot of these are mindsets and behaviors and how we can apply those in our daily activities. So that was to set the scene. That was Roche, that's us, that's where we come from. That's the kind of, guiding principles we work against, so guiding North Star. So a bit about the journey that we took. So very early in the process, and we started around 2018, we realized based on the fat cat analog that we had probably turned too much internal focus, and we were probably a bit too perfection in many areas, and we had many new and additional structure and processes, and we felt there needs to be a balance there that we need to shift. So we said let's try to say, can we go from 70% internal focus to 17% external focus? I still think internal focus in some cases are relevant, but let's shift those balances. And this was the starting point for then defining how can we do that. These are the guiding guardrails, so to say, for how we can excel our company. So the kind of principles for the whole agile transformation has been, how do we create more external focus? How do we create a feeling and a mindset saying we should be good enough when we need to be good enough, and we should obviously be perfect or whatever when that's necessary. For example, clinical trials, you can't just go for half the kind of information. You need to be, that's perfection. But in many areas, especially the internal side, good enough will suit any purpose. And again, speed and empowerment is a big part of how you can excel the value to the society. So we have killed, and I will show you a few of those, many processes and structures internally to be able to infuse more speed and empowerment in the organization. So keep this in mind. This is what we wanted to achieve: more external, good enough, and speed and empowerment. So many of the Roche affiliates, and thank you for asking, Matthias, how is everyone else doing? I think everyone else is doing well, but they started with structure to form a culture. I think the Swedish way or our way of doing it, what we wanted to shape a new culture to be able to understand how far can we get with a culture change. And you see a few things, and I will cover those later in the presentation, but for us, it's very much to apply a full outside-in perspective, meaning that everything we should do should have a purpose for the external environment. Nothing should be done just because we want it internally. Secondly, I think 80-20 mindset, I said it a couple of times already. We want to be perfect when we need to, but in most cases, let's stay on the 80% level. Self-leadership is a key part of this empowerment thing. We believe that too many layers, too many leaders is holding people back. So self-leadership is a key mindset of our culture. I will come back to that as well. Co-creation, networking, feedback, and support are key features to create value together with our customers instead of us sitting at the office trying to create solutions. So when we tried to live this, and I will come to how we made this happen, there were actually a lot of feedback from organizations saying, guys, you say to us that you want to do all of this, but the structure holds us back. So we got that feedback through the journey, and obviously then we added, and I'll take away so I see it. We added an element saying, okay, let's also shape a new structure, meaning a new organizational model. I will be honest, I won't share that much about that today. I'm happy if anyone else wants to reach out and learn more about that. I can maybe take a few questions in the Q&A. But I would say the key features of our new structure is that all roles have an external focus. We also have what we call a team constraints. We have created small, quick moving teams with actually 2 less resources to force them out in co-creation and networking externally or internally with our global organization. And it can sound a bit harsh, but we believe that that's how you create value, that's how you create priority, to remove some of the resourcing to be able to really find networks and co-creations that can deliver that together with. And we have removed all middle managers in organization. Today I only have 2 levels. We have an enabling team, and I will come back to that. And we have the rest, meaning the partners. And we work as one. And obviously, which won't be that many discussion, we live, because that's part of the process, in a very transparent, agile working styles with 90-day cycles, with stand-up meetings, with Kanbans, Trellos, etc., etc. I think there's many more on the call that is much more advanced than that. I try to describe how we use it instead of showing the tools. And obviously that's now been done. We implemented the model in August. We are now in December. And I will come in the end of the presentation to show what has the culture and the new structure delivered for us. But the key part of our daily interaction is to be relevant for our external world, and obviously to create value for patients in Sweden and globally. And this is another way to form, saying, maybe it's a repetition of the previous slide and it's way too much information, but on the left side, that's the start, the practicing the mindset and behaviors. We then created a critical mass of believers. We worked through the structure. We implemented the structure, onboarded people, and now we are in this kind of, on the right side, operational mode, where we really see our networks delivering, where we see high customer relevance, and obviously where we are prepared to iterate on the areas where we didn't get it right. So this has been a journey from, I would say, late 2018 throughout 2020, and we foresee and already see great impact in 2020, but mostly also in 2021. So that was the kind of journey that we take. So for me now, it's a key part, and I think here it's time to share some hopefully new ideas for all of you. I am a true believer that culture is the key of our organization. I don't say that structure and strategy is not important, but you will hopefully understand that we see this as the delivery of the organization. And to be able to create a new culture, we set together a transformation team. This is not that key information, but we included a number of key colleagues. We call them internal influencers. A key part that I advise everyone to do is also to include the leadership team, in our case, the enabling team. It's not that they can tell everyone else to do, they also need to transform. And I think that's a big kind of, hurdle in some cultures, in some affiliates within Roche, that they tell everyone else to do, but they forget to do themselves. So we were very keen to include the whole Swedish enabling team in the transformation office. And then obviously we say we don't have all answers internally, so let's find those networks, those partners that we can work with. Crisp and Lawrence are 2 of those that we have worked with throughout the journey. More on a ad hoc basis, more on saying we need a few pull-throughs over here, and I think that's worked really well. And obviously there are partners around the globe that we have used in many ways to learn and share. And then I will come to how did we change the culture. So a key part for us is that you don't tell people change. You need to sense, you need to feel, you need to talk. And obviously this was pre-COVID, so our kind of first strategy was to say let's really go out and have conversations, one at a time. Not have big groups and people sharing. More saying, what do you see our company today? Where the golden kind of future, what would that look like? What's holding you back? What's your thinking about the delivery we make to that? And that's the starting point. And then on top of that, we were very keen to share and apply a concept of psychological safety, saying if we don't have this in place, everything we should do will be more of a charade. So we said let's really bring safety into the organization in every corner of the teams. And I think for some of you this might be familiar, but it's necessary that you are able to be yourself. It's necessary that you are able to share mistakes and ask questions, obviously to take risks, raise problems, and to disagree. Some cultures, these are easier things. Some cultures, these are more difficult things to achieve. But we felt this is a key part of how we want to develop our culture. We want our people to be able to say what they mean and to raise problems if they see problems, and to say, no, I don't agree about this when they don't agree. And I wouldn't say that we didn't have this in the previous culture, but I would say there were elements that sometimes you trusted your manager, or you were a bit afraid to put yourself on a pillar, etc., etc. So we said these are key elements of our culture change. And the last thing to set the scene for, because then I will come into some examples what we did, is to really apply beginner's mind. I can honestly say we didn't really have a plan when we started this. We more have an idea. We had the guardrail rails, external focus, less processes, more speed, more 80-20. So we said let's do it, experiment by experiment, but be really curious about experiments. Not saying we probably know that this will not work or this will work. This is how you should do it. More saying let's trigger something and see what happens. And then we learn from that and apply that, and then we create a new experiment. So that's how we actually did the whole transformation culture thing. And I will now share, I would say, 5, 6, maybe 7 different examples of how that could look like. So the first example that we said, failure has been something that you cover up in our organization. Failure is something that you shouldn't share. And we got the insight that can't be right. In an agile organization, failure and mistakes is a natural part of how you operate. If you don't dare to fail, you don't take the necessary risks. So we trigger this off by initiating what we say it's a failure day celebration. So we are every year on October 13th, which is the World Failure Day. If that's on a weekend, we do it another day, but close to that. Celebrating failures where we share transparently, the failures of the year. Everyone voluntarily participates. We usually have more or less everyone there. It's the enabling teams. It's the whole organization. Obviously, 2020 is a bit different. We didn't do it this year, but our global teams took it up. So now actually this local initiative is a global failure day within the whole Roche community. 94,000 people are invited, not mandatory, but invited to take part. The global CE starts by sharing his biggest mistakes in 2020. And I love that kind of tweak of, instead of, making this something difficult, you invite, you listen into. And a great story is on the Museum of Failures, which is existing, but I just heard actually a couple of weeks ago, it's now a failure, has closed of too few attendees, obviously based on COVID. But I love that kind of museum failures. It's now a failure, but it's a great experiment. So that was one. A second one is that we felt a bit saying, people say that there's a lot of knowledge in organizations. So we on a Friday had an idea. Let's trigger people to select a coach if they want to. And on the Wednesday after, we sent out an email, and it was actually an idea that we created in our senior team, saying you're allowed to pick a coach, anyone within the organization that is not in your role or function, to be able to mix people. And no colleague could coach more than 5 colleagues. And actually, we got 70% of our 100 colleagues by then to pick a coach. Obviously, we didn't put that many guardrails for this. It was more saying, where do you find energy? Where can you go for ideas? Some picked, the GM. I think Jacob, my coach, is on the call. Maybe not. He was the youngest person in the organization by then. I felt I can probably learn a lot from those millennials that comes in, etc. So that was, and I would say this was the early thinking. We actually had a serious discussion. Should we allow our people to pick the manager? Could that be feasible? We didn't go for that, but this was a test. And I think the pick the coach initiative was successful in the way that we got engagement. I know a lot of these are still ongoing. Some obviously has faded out, and that's okay. You go for the engagement in this, but really to encourage people to take self-initiatives, to go for those that inspire you, and hopefully that triggers learnings. We created a feedback app. I'm not a technology guy in a way, but we had people telling I'm not really comfortable by providing one-to-one feedback. This is actually honestly a failure. I don't see this happening today, but it triggers a lot of discussion. It triggers at least a big group of people in an organization that start at least more actively share feedback one-to-one or with your peers. So it was an idea to stimulate feedback. There was never an intention to keep the app, because I think most of us valid where the feedback is delivered, in the proper discussion. But this was a way to at least get a few more on the journey of providing feedback. Another key change is how we actually operate with customers. We were very much, we were creating the kind of, dialogues, we were pushing out the solutions, and then we hoped that those were right for our customers. So we took a big tweak on that and started an initiative around co-creation, which is now a key element on how we want to operate. Over half our organization has been trained how to co-create with customers, and everyone in the senior team has done it. We believe that co-creation will allow us to get the solutions together with our customers instead of us providing those, and also to obviously understand the needs much better. And again, 60 co-creation doesn't sound a lot, but we haven't done that at all, I would say, in the past. And we see this concept obviously now moving into virtual space, but it's a great way of interacting, involving, instead of thinking that you know everything, and also to find ways of quickly get started, to build relationships, and to get the right level of ambition. So co-creation has been a key part of how we have changed the customer interactions. Another key part, and this was part of an incentive program, but this was also to change our culture, was that we actually are much more keen to ask our customers about feedback. So we have in 2018 and 19, we triggered an incentive program where we actually, our customer-facing organization, brought with them paper notes. You have them on the right side, the happy faces. And the happy faces, I think, is not that really relevant. The relevance, but how you sell, the kind of, we want your opinion, and also we want your constructive opinion. And we were able in 9 months by 11 sales reps or customer facing to collect over 3,000 of these feedback cards. And I would say I was amazed how many customers that, if you ask for it, that is willing to provide some constructive feedback. I might be exaggerating, but I would say my kind of overview was at least half of the cards included something that we could improve. And I think we have implemented at least 50, 60 different small activities, not big things, but small activities in our way that we operate with customers based on these feedback cards. So really creating a customer feedback obsession. And this is now something I think we have as a culture. We are very keen to understand, how we can improve and have those discussions. You don't need the cards these days to have that. We have that as a part of a culture. We also wanted to include our customers in the dialogue, not us just sending information. So many of us, when we were out, were asking our customers for patient stories to really visualize both the value and sometimes the challenges with our innovations. And I think that brings a lot of value, and we got that feedback to the discussions that we have with our customers. And then I was already pointed out that co-creation has been a key part of how we shifted our ways of working with our customers. A very simple tool that we also developed was this one, the 5-finger assessment. We felt we needed, because there was some feedback saying, how do I know what to do? You know, you say you empower me, go for it, just do it. But how do I know when to do it? So we said, let's create a tool that you always have with you. And we then got the hand. Oh, sorry, my battery's running out. 1 sec. And then the tool of the 5-finger assessment was developed. And your little finger is the value for your patients, is the value for your customers, that's the ring finger. Sorry, I shouldn't show that, but it's the value for Roche, that's your long finger. Your pointing finger is the value for me. If you have all those 4, it's a thumbs up. Then you are ready to implement. And I would say the value for me is usually where you miss, because we felt that if there's no engagement to do it, the likelihood of it being successful is low. I think it's quite easy to say, is the value for patients? Yeah, I can see that. Customers, yeah. Roche, yeah, we can probably benefit. But there needs also to be value for myself. If all of those 4 ticks, then you are ready to go. And it's not that someone else saying, no, you're not allowed. We empower people to go ahead, do it. I think I mentioned in the beginning, we killed a lot of structure and processes. One was the yearly brand planning. I don't know how about your organizations, but we had a massive planning period from April to August. People were producing slides like hell. There were iterations and reviews after reviews after reviews. And you saved it in a Google Drive somewhere, and no one really cared after it. So we said that can't be the case. That's not how we deliver more external focus, more speed, more empowerment. So we said let's create a planning process where you are iterating every 90 days. You have a one-pager, meaning 1 page. It's totally transparent. You show it through a Kanban, a virtual Kanban, or in the office when we're back, and it's updated constantly. And I can only say, just this minor change, which was big for us, have saved so many thousands of hours that we can use to implement instead. So rather of going maniac on planning, go maniac on implementation and plan just the necessaries. Because again, you can't really predict what happens in next year and the year after. This is really powerful. We've done the same with budgeting. We have one budget for the whole affiliate. No budget per division or function or activity, and then we iterate along the way, saying, are we spending the right money on the right activities, and we learn from that, and then we go ahead. And then you have the 5-finger. If you think there's value for all of those, go ahead. Another thing that we did very heavily in the beginning to create a new culture was to learn from others. And we call it internally, maybe that's an acronym that people are to goob, go out of the building. So for example, we heard about many different companies, and one was the Seago. They have an organization where everyone set their own salary. So again, applying a curious mind, how does that work? How do you do that? At Gullers, which is a PR agency, they have one manager for 200 employees. Again, beginner's mind. How can you make that happen? We went to Spotify. This is me. I look fat, actually. And then is the GM of Sweden, Amy. So we went to Spotify saying, guys, you started as an Agile company. What can we learn from that? Can you help us? And I would say, I'm amazed when you reach out saying, guys, we interested about you. We heard you done some cool stuff. We have been invited to every one of these, and I think there's no money involved. There's nothing. It's just sharing, learning, creating networks, and have a great discussion. And we even brought it further to send, I think it was 15 or 14 colleagues to Amsterdam for like a full 2 days inspiration tour. So they went to Butchtalk, they went to Google, and number of other companies to get inspired what others can do around agile transformations and certain topics that we were interested in. So I think again, this is a call for everyone of you. We would love to welcome you to Roche, but also there's so many value and so many insights out there that you can actually just get and ask for. So that was a bit around the culture. So hopefully you get the sense that we have done this through experimentations, doing stuff, listening to, observing, sensing, and just trying different stuff. And I think that collectively had really changed the way we operate as an organization. The second part I want to cover, maybe not that many initiatives, but more saying how have we worked with our people? Because again, we want to support our people to be the best self. And this has been a circle of kind of, where do we put attention? So we said, let's make people awesome. That's the core of what we can achieve if we really are successful. Obviously, if people are awesome, they will deliver value continuously. We believe that everyone has good intention and want to be successful. So if you allow for that, the rest will come. Again, as I said, we were very keen to make sure that there is a safe environment, say, to enable. If you do value, you will do that in a safe environment, meaning that you need to take risks sometimes. And then as Agile methodology always says, you learn quickly and you change quickly if things doesn't work. So this has been a continuous cycle. We iterate, we learn, are there new barriers? Let's remove those, see what happens on the value. If there's safety issues, which I don't think we have today, obviously we tackle those, and then we learn and apply those cycles. I maybe skip that and then say, based on that kind of, how do we equip our people? We recruited for the new organization purely based on mindset and behaviors and engagement. So when we went from the old structure to the new structure, we assessed our people saying, we want those that really want to be with Roche, that really believes in the kind of spirit we want to work with, and that is best equipped with the right mindsets and behaviors. So we didn't took any consideration into knowledge or training or experience. And the 6 areas where we are very keen that are fundamental for success is these 6 on the left side. So we believe to be able to be successful in our organization, we need to be questioning and challenging. We need to be trusting and empowering. There needs to be self-directed continuous learning. A key part has been to be really interested and collaborative in networks and together, to be able to take risk and experiment, and to have this pragmatic approach. So these are key features that we actually are not measuring, but discussing and having as a core of how we want to operate. Because again, our flat organization, our leadership, I will come to that, is dependent on that this is working. Without this, we will not be successful. And then I think this is the last or the only slide I will share a bit about the structure. So I said when we have removed the hierarchy, we have now really increased empowerment for everyone. We have a very simplified structure. I already covered the outside-in perspective in that we need to have a network to fit for purpose approach. So for us, the mindsets and behaviors and culture is very well meeting the structure. So there needs to be close sync into that. And that's how we have now set us up for success. And then I think a key part that sometimes you forget is that you obviously, if you change the culture, if you change the structure, that there is a key part that you also need to look into, and that's been the leadership. And we have moved away from really controlling, planning, to really empowering and experimentation. And obviously the leadership needs to follow that. So this will be, before I'm moving into what kind of impacts have we seen, I will just say the big change around the leadership. So we were in the former management team, there were a lot of things that were escalated. That was, I would say, not the normal way, but a quite common way to get some key decisions pulled through. Team were there to present and share on a regular basis, and we were seen as the management team members as the experts. We were very internally focused. There was no or very few customer visits as the management team. We had bi-monthly, very long meetings with packed agendas, and it was decision after decisions, and these were happening behind closed doors. So we said, is this really what an agile organization and an empowered organization should have? So we said, no, that can't be true. So we flipped the whole idea of how we want to operate. So We are now called the enabling team. There is no escalation at all to enabling team today, but obviously individuals can ask for support or guidance, but more on their own request. We are regularly, a bit more struggle now in COVID situation, but we are very regularly out meeting customers as a team or on our own. We have monthly half-day meetings, so much less meetings where we purely focus on learnings and how we can contribute even better to the organization. And we have our meetings in open areas, and obviously we're now doing it virtual, but we share the agendas, we share the outcomes, we share the decisions, and we really believe that this helps the organizations to feel empowered and that the decisions are taken as close to the customer as possible. And self-leadership is now a way to operate. And the leadership models that we are using is the VAC methodology. So we, as leaders in the organization, are providing a visionary direction. We are there to help our people with architecture and coaching and catalyst. And that's why we are called coaches. And maybe you saw that in my first slide. So I'm an agnostic coach, meaning I apply for the non-oncology part of the organization, these things. I'm not there to take decisions. I'm not there to direct. I'm not there to plan. I'm there to guide, help, facilitate my people to be as successful as they can be. That's purely the leadership that we want to apply. And obviously, it's a massive change from where we come from, where hierarchy controlling was key features. And this actually not launched. I just took it because we also obviously fully transparently share where we're going as an enabling team. There's nothing to hide from. We share all our initiatives that we are working on. This is not yet launched. It will happen within a couple of days. But we are really trying to you maybe see the topics on the slide. This is purely to facilitate and enable our organization to become the best self. That's purely where we come together. Anything else is handled by the teams or in dialogue with your network. So I think I have a few more minutes. I will end by showing some impact. It's a fairly boring slide, but I think again, I won't show sales numbers or number of packages going out. What I want to share is what kind of impacts do we see. So we have now in the external world seen that co-creation with our stakeholders is a natural part of how we interact. Based on this, we have a numerous of new partnerships formed with the external world. We had partnership before, but it was more us paying them to do stuff that we wanted them to do. Today it's totally opposite. They don't pay us, but they work together with us without any. We had contracts, but more to add the value to society and to patients. I would say a big fact that we haven't seen that happen that frequently before is that customers start to reach out to us for discussion. We usually had to hunt down our customers saying, "Oh, sorry, I disturbed. Can I get 5 minutes?" We see a big tendency of customers reaching out to us now. And I would say, I'm really happy to say we do much, much less activities, but we do the ones that matters. We see really a shift to bang for the buck and very few nice to dos. We do the needs. And I would say, I can't share how many, but it's been a long line of recent applications to join the organization. And I would say a big part of that is from healthcare. Even a number of oncologists has called out saying, "Guys, this is so inspiring. Can I join you? Can I start working for you?" So I think these are visual external impacts that we are really proud about, and that gives us energy to continue. The internal impact is easier. I would say we've seen that we have a much more significant customer networks in all parts of the organization. Before we had customer facing, now we see customer interactions happening across the org. There's endless of example. I just covered, the tip of the iceberg today, where we have removed, optimized the internal processes. And I'm sure if you call a colleague in the organization, that they can send evidence that there is a much higher urgency and speed in organizations, and we can pull around solutions for customers on the spot that previously took months or years to do based on empowerment. And I would say, maybe I'm a bit biased and really, hope for success, but I think at least I can with standing up saying that silo thinking has been reduced. We have much more evidence that our colleagues reach out and support each other. I think we have come together as an organization and really applying trust and support more than control and pointing fingers. And I think we do now a weekly engagement pulse checks, and I think again it's been a struggle, I would say, with COVID, new organization and darkness. I think in this November darkness hasn't played out well, but I would say throughout this journey there has been high engagement across the whole organization. And I see that as an evidence because I have experience doing reorgs in other organizations where really drop in energy. We have made and pull through this without dropping too much. Obviously, some weeks are worse than others, but it's been great engagement throughout, and I think that's a proof that you can actually pull through major differences to the organization by involving, by really explaining the why, and get buy-in for that, and see that people get energy from the shift. So I think some of you probably are surprised on this. Some of you say this was not relevant for me, but I also hope there were some that felt, shit, this is inspiring, or this idea, this I can pull through. So my intention was really, as I said, this in the opening, don't copy this, don't take this as this is the kind of step you need to take. Hopefully there was something in the presentations that is useful for yourself. Otherwise, it was an experiment. I'm more than happy to share other things in the Q&A or in other ways, but hopefully it was engaging and inspirational. So thank you all for listening. Let's move then to Q&A. Matthias.
Yeah, thank you so much, Christian. I'm just, this was amazing to listen to, and it's very clear to me that you walk the walk with all the, the challenges and struggles that comes with that. So if you stop sharing, I'll share the the Q&A part of this session. So
one sec.
What I'm going to do is invite you all to, we have quite a bit of time now reserved for Q&A. So the Q&A is going to be a major part of this at the end here. We have probably something like 20-25 minutes if we need it. And
so now.
So here again, use slido.com, use the code at the left, or just pick up your cell phone and take a photo of that black and white box, and you can add questions here. I'm going to start off with a couple of questions while you guys add to it. So the first thing I want to just kind of allow you to elaborate a little bit on, because I became part of this in the beginning of this year, when you were basically ready to start working with, we're really ready to start changing our way in working with our, your frontline team, which you call the disease area teams, and also other part of the other teams in the organization. We feel the strong need that then we need to start working in a way, changing our internal process so we can be more customer centered. We're struggling, how are we actually going to do this? But when I became a part of this, it was so incredibly tangible to me, how much energy, how much passion, and how much, it's like a supercharged energy in the organization. We really want to do this. Just give us something so we can get, it was just ready to tip over. It's like a dam breaking, right? So I just want to ask you, because you chose a different path, like a different order of addressing some of these challenges. You changed, you said, we want to start with a culture. We want to start with conversations. And you took your time. We want self-leadership become a thing that everybody's participating in, and kind of, measuring up to this change and make sense of it individually in the whole organization before we even address things like way of working or structure. So please elaborate why you did something like that. You even removed the budget before you even considered changing way of working. Why?
It's a great question. I actually have no clear answer. It was just a gut feeling, saying we by talking to people, there was so much, as you say, energy of trying to change yourself, or trying to. So we said let's really see how far we can get by person by person, And that's why we created the transformation office, saying let's create a critical mass that then can work with the rest, etc., etc. So for me, it was just a gut feeling. I don't know. I actually can't really remember why we didn't fall into the trap of saying let's also do structure and all of that. We just got that feeling, saying there is a lot we can achieve here, and our people are up for it. Let's start there and see where it takes us. And again, it could be that was the end of the story. Then, in our case, people told us we need the ways of working too, and we need this and this. So obviously, we then listen in and say, okay, let's apply that as well. But I think it was gut feeling. I can't say anything else. It was just how we did it.
So you also mentioned something about like you changed the approach from the leadership to executive leadership team itself, and that was kind of part of this journey from the way of the beginning, which included a lot of difficult work, right? I understand that you really, there were some gut check moments and some, really, you didn't shortcut that either. The fallacy would be, well, changes for everybody else except us. You chose a different path. What was that like to be part of that as, skin in the game yourself? And what role do you think that decision played in the transformation?
Obviously it's a very conscious decision to do that, because we felt that, as you say, it would be really a charade or just playing the game if they were not also changing. So obviously I was part of the enabling team then and still is. So I was like the bridge to the organization, but also part of and I would say the enabling team was the problem, but obviously there were a lot of defending your hierarchy, defending your power that we had to deal with. And I think we were lucky to get the new general manager by then, that and the old one was also supportive, but the new GM really went in for perspective that she could live with this and see value in this, and that helped me to get other people on board. I think again it's these are also discussions one by one. I also sat down with my peers saying, where do you want with this? Where do you go? Where do you see needs? And this is also a step-by-step approach. I think the easy way would be, to do massive process plan, to do all of this at the same time. But we took the time also there and involve them, chat with them, challenge them if we felt that they were moving in the wrong direction. And that happened along the ways. There were occasions where I felt they were protecting the function or the enabling team. But I think, again, this honesty, transparency, discussion, showing, getting energy, and then it happened. I think involvement is the key part of this. Exclusion will probably create something differently, but we wanted to include, and that's how we did it.
Okay, so I have a last question before we jump into the participant questions. So, we mentioned at the start, I want to close by it as well. Like Roche, very, very big organization. You said 94,000 people, amazingly big. Roche is 113 years old. Philanthropically family owned, right? Patient value first has been a part of the culture for many years, but still, this is a major, bold decision to change like this big, Atlantic oil freighter or something. It's not necessarily easy to change course. How is this decision made at the global top level? And I'm also very inspired by the more better, delivering better outcomes for more patients faster. So tell me something about what happened at the top global level, executive level, that made this decision become a priority for the whole organization.
I think, again, not a big difference to many other companies, but I think as we are successful. We haven't done this because we are in some kind of we need to fix this or fix that. The senior leadership, together with all of us, I think believes that there is so much potential in our people, and so much potential to actually not only add value, but really transform the ecosystem around us. And we have been more of a server, pushing out stuff. We want to be an integrated part of the whole healthcare. And I think many other pharmaceutical, large pharmaceutical, smaller, can also do that. I think there's no competition into that, but I think the ambition for patients can be higher, and I think we all believe that, and there's so many opportunities. I think you hear the vaccines, you hear immune therapies, the whole genomic profile of the human is discovered. I think we have operated, as you say, 124 years in one way. 150 year is now very different, and I think that is the strives, and we can do more, and we need to do more, because again, patients are waiting, patients are there suffering. There's about 3,000-4,000 diseases that doesn't have a treatment today, etc., etc. So that's how we make money, but that's also how we go to work. That's why we are here, and I think if you convinced by that, we should do anything in our power to make that happen. I think what we see with our leadership is they are prepared to make anything happen and to challenge everything that holds us back. And I'm just, I'm not always politically correct. Don't take me wrong, but I'm so amazed that this could happen in an organization, as I say, of this size. There's a lot of risks into this, obviously, but they are prepared because the benefit could be so much higher in the end.
Okay, we have a lot of questions, Christian. So you
Yeah,
might
see that
focus on your answers here.
Yeah,
let's
I will
jump
be short.
into them. Martin and a bunch of other people want to know. They're talking about agile coaches. Did you have those? What did you do to create, make it visible that there was a need for agile coaches or some other type of coaches, so that managers would enable them in the organization? And this is kind of funny to me because you are one of those managers, right? So tell me something more about what's your stance of coaching in general and agile coaches specifically.
I think again, agile coaches has been a key part of this transformation. As I said, we started with the influencers, and then we said let's also invite those that knows. And I think I said that before, the GU being the learning. So I think we actually went for GUing on Lawrence, and then we started to work with them, and then we heard about CRISP. So we said let's invite those that can learn us, and then let's learn from them. So Matthias was with us. We had another girl with us. And now they have helped a couple of others in the organization to become the agile coaches. And they operate fluidly in the organization. They seek attention, they seek energy. They help individuals, they help teams, they help enabling team, again, with making difference for patients. So they are now a fluid resource within organizations. We really value them. We see a lot of positive things around them. But they're not forceful. They're not saying, you need to apply this model, you need to do like that. They're more there as enablers and guides, I would say.
Okay. Looking into the previous organization, I trust you had a bunch of job profiles, right? Or titles or job description or similar sort. How did you manage to transform and change those profile roles into the new world? What was that process like?
So I haven't tried that, but we had when we created a new structure, we obviously defined the roles that we think is important. All of those has now an external outside in thinking, and we had an opt-in, opt-out process. So we shared the roles. People were allowed to say, I raise my hand for this and this, or I don't see myself in the organization. And if you opted out, it was a very clear path that you could take, both on compensation, support, development, etc. And those that opted in, as I said, we recruited on the mindset, the behaviors. So obviously there was job profiles for them as well, but we were very keen to find those that want to do this, believe in this, and had the right spirit and engagement. So we have job profiles today, but they're much less tailored or detailed. There's more directions. This is the value for patients that we want you to create or yourself create. So there was a transition there, but I think again, people felt engaged when they saw the new roles. Obviously, these were created, I didn't share that, but through internal design teams. So there was internal development and engagement throughout the journey.
I can add to that answer a little bit for context. Keep in mind, they started with 1 year of self-leadership, enabling team change and culture change and tons of conversation for 1 year. Then they addressed their way of working for about half a year. And then at the very last thing that was done was address the organizational structures in that order. And I also want to share that the way you actually address the reorg, because you actually had that as an iterative process. You invited a lot of people into defining what the organization needed to be. And to a large extent, the enabling team just gave a couple of guidance pointers and then allowed this group of diverse people to actually decide what the organization was going to be like. And that was actually shared with most people in the organization in a feedback session, which led to a couple of significant changes in what the organizational structure was going to become. And only then, at the tail end of that kind of iterative process, did you actually decide on what, make the hard calls, like this is what the organizational structure is going to become. So maybe you can say something about that process as well.
Yeah, no, thank you. I obviously, on concern of time, I didn't cover that in any details at all. So you shared our thinking. We felt it can't be the enabling team again that point saying this is what we need, because we want our people to decide what these are the guardrails that we have: more external focus, more speed and empowerment, more or less perfection. How can an organization look like that deliver that? And then there were design teams set up. People were applying for that. I think we got half the organizations applying. Obviously, not everyone can join, but they created the new structure without any kind of impact from the enabling team. The only thing that the enabling team actually impacted was a bit around decision taking, because there was some global directions on that. And then I see questions here, how many roles? So we were really keen to say we want every role we need. There was no kind of ambition to say let's go for lower or more. More say we should have the roles that makes impact, because again that's what we own our people. You should be here to make a real impact. If we have roles that doesn't that, we shouldn't have those. So we had that discussion, obviously also with the design teams, and ended up in the structure where we are today. There was a reduction from 106 to 91 positions. But I would say with this process I shared, opt-in, opt-out, there's been very little tension. There were people feeling this is not for me. There certainly were a couple of middle managers saying I want to be a manager. They were not allowed to be that, and then there was an opportunity to opt out. And I would say it's been a very fair, relevant, respectful process to really define. As I say, we had a culture in done then, so people were accepting, supportive of this change, and they wanted this. And again, we were not there to for our people. We were there to enable the people that are in this organization to be the best self. And that's the organization we have today. The 91 roles that we have now is all of them are allowed. Then you can take that responsibility or don't take it, but everyone is allowed to use the whole capacity.
So would you say that addresses these two questions?
Yeah.
What happened to managers, and did you fire anybody, or?
Yep. So we didn't fire anyone. People were opting out, and that's solved for more or less. There were a couple of that didn't get the role they asked for due to competition, and then they decide themselves to opt out. Middle management, this was shared with the whole organization. As you said, we did iterations and feedback sessions, so it was quite obvious early in the process that there would be a clear reduction of managers. When we then entered the final solution, I think there was an acceptance based on the why. We want you to be your best self. Middle manager is great to tell you what to do and control you, but that's not what we need. Some of them fall into other positions. Some of them left. Some of them are now coach, meaning they are on the senior team. So there was differences. We were 24 managers in the previous organization. We are 7 today.
What would you do differently if you had to do all this all again? I knew this question would come.
Yeah, me too. I get a lot. I'm thinking a lot of things. Obviously, I think we have many, and that there are probably questions about what are the failures. I think, and you have this kind of, you want to make an impact. I think we should probably take a bit even more time. I think that for me is this is a long-term process. I also, in many cases, saying, inclusion of people has been strong into this, but you could have included even more perspectives. We did include a lot of customers in the end, but if I would do it again, I would actually go out to customers and what do you see? What do you see value in working with us? We did that in the end. We got it right through design, but I would put in more external perspectives on this.
Okay, I'm gonna slip in a few questions and answers for the Zoom feature. So one question is, before the launch of your new organization in August, what are the key steps you took as part of the preparation? I think we've covered that. Next question, would you say that the changes you described so well have changed Roche as a whole to become an agile company, meaning that the board of directors and top management scale back planning, forecasting, controlling, and instructing, instead support adaptability, external focus, and flexibility?
I would say locally for sure, and if there's people from Roche on the line, I think they can put the +1 on that. I think again, I haven't chatted up, but we are now going through a global iteration on this, and I think some of us, and that's open for everyone, has seen the first kind of drafts of that. It's I would say it's almost exactly a copy of what we've done in Sweden, and luckily our GM, our general manager, she's the lead of the whole global now iteration on this, because a lot of affiliates done great stuff, but I think we have found a model, a culture, which is now is seen as a role model for the whole organization. And this is the pharma internationals, it's not the dia side. So I would say this has really been accepted. This has really been a mind-blowing exercise that has impact way out of the Sweden affiliate.
Next question. Thank you so much for this webinar. What's the real benefit for patients' life? Reduced time to market, etc. You've covered some of that during the talk, but this is something you want to kind of, if you would pick one thing, what would that be?
I would say again, I think it's a great question. I think that's something we should ask ourselves every day. I think what we see with the deliver better outcomes for more patients faster is this kind of, we want to do the right things first and not fail, or if we fail, we learn and quickly change it. So that will help patients. I think the speed is key. Our patients are here today. For those that know, research takes 10 years. Implementation in Sweden at least takes at least 4 or 5 years before new innovation is established. Imagine if you can reduce that to half time. You've seen what happens on the vaccine side. Maybe some people criticize that, but currently we have pulled through in the industry things that usually takes 10, 12 years in 2 years or even a year in some cases. And our innovations only provide value for patients if they're used. That's the end of the game. You can't challenge that. If they're not used, there's no value. And obviously there's competition and they use something else. Yeah, but then at least they get treatment. So if we can increase the competition, if we can increase the usage of our innovation, because any innovation that is used should be better than the previous one. Otherwise, it's not an innovation. Otherwise, it's a copy or something else. And we only put our money on innovation, things that improves lives for patients. And I think that's the daily task. That's if I do something, I should challenge and say, what value does this bring for patients?
Yeah, that's been a core part of the Roche culture for many years, right? So that doesn't change. So short question from Donna. Did you use organizational network analysis to mobilize the networks? I'm not sure I understand this question.
No, I think what I read from it, maybe I'm wrong, please then correct us, Donna, it's that obviously we didn't do any map. We're not that big organization. We're 100 people, but we obviously looked around us saying who else? And I think that transformation office was a bit of that very simplified map, saying that we were really keen to say who is out there, who can we work with to make it happen, and not to build all capabilities internally, more saying which should be our partners, we can help us with this, which could we help. Let's do the experiment together. We do one part, you do another part, and then see what happens. So we are very keen to observe and see out, not looking only on what can we do here in Sweden.
Okay, can we get a copy of this presentation?
I can send that to you. I'm not really. Nothing is confidential. I'm happy to share presentation. Maybe I don't have time to sit and email everyone. Maybe can you help me with that?
Send it to me and I'll take care of it. Also, we're going to share this talk as a recording on our YouTube website. It's Crisp Academy. I'll link it in the chat in a minute here. Okay, next question. Among the 3 changes you mentioned, shaping a culture, shaping a new structure, and shaping the people, what was the most difficult to shape?
The most fun was culture. I don't say, I don't take the word difficult. That was certainly the most fun way of working, because that was very much, as I said, experimentation. I think shaping the structure that's a lot of emotions around structure. Always people that feel that they're not listened to or heard to. So I would say that's probably the struggle. I think we did it in a very fair, respectful way, as I said. But I think again, it's a hard journey to do that. But as you pointed out, Matthias, we were in a good place because we had a culture supporting it. So I would say culture, shaping people, love that. Really found it exciting. Shaping structure, I also loved that work, but it was more challenging and I would say also a bit difficult.
Yeah, human beings, we get attached to things we enjoy and love, and part of that can be our professional roles or how we see ourselves in the working context. So it takes more work from the individuals and everybody else, I suppose. Okay, based on your learnings, where do you suggest to start the journey? People, managers, organization? Do you have the answers, Christian?
Sounds like I'm the expert. I'm not the expert in this, but we start with the people, but also people are managers. I think again, you shouldn't separate those. I think many does that with the wrong, and then I think organization is. I think structure, as I said before, is just the kind of frame for it. It's the people that make the difference. Also in our industry, where I have great innovations and all that, it's still the people. It's good people make magic. Disengaged people or people that do not use the capabilities, I would say it's not what you need.
Okay, I hope the transformation approach wasn't a big bang. If that's a yes, then how many Agile coaches supported this change?
No, it wasn't a big bang. It was a process over some years, but we had we had a couple of Agile coaches now and then, not always full time, not always acting everywhere, but we really listening to people say, tell us when you need the support and we will provide that, instead of saying, here's the support, do it. So we were very keen. So Matthias was one of those where people asked, we need more help to define how we work in the new disease area teams. And ta-da, here's Matthias, he can help you with that. So more on this, using the dialogue to identify needs instead of providing all solutions up front and saying, we need to work like this. We tested, we added, we changed if we felt this doesn't add value. And I think that's how we operated with the Agile coaches and the whole process. But it wasn't a big bang, no.
Did you use ADKAR model for change? I had to look this up. So this is a, Prosky ADKAR model. Anyway, awareness for the need for change, desire to support this change, knowledge of how to change, ability to demonstrate skills and behaviors, and reinforcement to make the change stick. So I guess this is, how structured was your approach? Did you use any frameworks, or were you just like using the force? That's I guess I changed the question there, but
yeah, you changed the question. I'm like you. You probably sense that I have a lot of energy. I'm really, but I'm worth useless in theory. I would say we didn't have any structure, or we had a very strong belief, idea, engagement, and we did it, as I said, with the beginner's mind. We started with one experiment, we then created an experiment, we then suddenly realized we are changing the culture, and then suddenly the culture change triggered, oh shit, we probably need to change the structure. The structure suddenly saying, oh shit, we need to change the leadership. So it was no master plan at all. It was very much learning, observing, sensing, changing, testing. Maybe it's the same, but that's how we did it.
What I can add is one element that you didn't necessarily point out directly that I can, reflect on myself, that I've seen in a lot of, successful change efforts is there's this self-trust that we are going to be capable of learning what we need to become successful. You know, so you kind of replace that. If you have the level of self-trust in each other and everybody else on the journey, and the type of leadership that you need to have, but also that we're capable of learning and addressing the issues as we learn about them. If you have that self-trust, you can overcome a lot of other challenges. You know, there's always this fallacy of believing if we just learn every perfect framework out there to the T, then we're going to be successful. You still need to cross that hurdle of dealing with that little anxiety that, you know, it's skin in the game, right? Okay, are you available for an inspiring keynote at our site?
Send me an email or Matthias. Yeah, I never say no to anything, but I'm conscious of time too. I'm in the middle of many different processes at the moment, but I'm there to help and support and inspire whatever I can do.
Yeah. We have about 5 minutes left, and I think we have a chance to get through these. So what were some of the quick wins in an agile transformation?
I think we really felt engagement early. We really felt empowering by this. I think we come together as an organization. As you might remember, we were silo working. We were a bit, internally focused. We by applying the agile mindset, saying let's open up, let's be, let's share, let's have the focus directed to something that means value. You sense the energy getting up. You sense people want to contribute, and yeah, I think that was the early quick wins that we saw. It wasn't evident immediately, but I felt a lot along the journey by talking to people that they always this change is a bit scary, but people were too curious to not come along. I think that's how I would describe it, saying that we painted up a future that they couldn't resist really, and then they get energy and then they start to help. So yeah.
And something I can share, this is the first time I've had the opportunity to work in the pharmaceutical industry. And if you do something quickly in this industry, you're basically getting a new treatment out in 14 years. So it's not always about the quick wins. It's long-term impact making decision making and having patience to get there. Of course, doing it faster is a key part of this change, which you emphasized. But yeah, from where did the rationale to move to Agile come from? Was it something that came from top management or another team? And how long did it take to kind of make that decision?
So I think again we certainly got inspiration from our global leaders saying that there is something there, but we again purely design our own journey. We took the decision. We are not doing agile as some other affiliates do in the Roche community. So it was inspiration from global leaders, but very much person to person dialogues internally, saying what would you need to be able to be your best self, and then the agile concepts was entered.
How much did this transformation cost?
It's a great question. I would say how much value has the transformation created is a much better. But I think again, it's obviously there's been investment of time, energy, but I think if you talk to our people, it's totally worth it. Yeah, it's tough when people leave the organization, but it was also totally worth it to be able to be our best self in the new structure. And so I would say it hasn't been, if you expect millions of euros or SEK, no, not at all. More changing our ways of working, changing how we operate, and that's been with the people we have. Yeah, we had some contractors in and support from Chris Melonsberg, but it's been on a fairly low level. I would say we've done most of this by ourselves with obvious support from those that we see value in.
How did you get the information from patients, their view, if it is better? Are they your direct customers, or do you only get info from their health providers? How does this work? We
get information from a lot of different sources on the better. I think that's part of how we operate, and obviously there's no possibility to promote our drugs to patients, but we can have a dialogue with patients. We can have a dialogue with payers and with healthcare professionals or whatever. So obviously we are there to understand and learn, saying, okay, do you see the difference? Do we deliver value in a better way? And value for patients is just this: access, quicker solutions, clarity, simplification, anything that can improve the patient journey is in our scope.
Okay, last question before we finish off. You said that the process is finished now. What's your definition of done for this transformation?
So maybe I was wrong. I don't think the process is done. I think that there will always be iterations. I think we were very keen to get the culture to the level we're in, and then obviously the structure is now supportive of that. But if you remember, and I don't ask you to do that, but that's this arrow back. I think we're back on culture again. Constantly work with that. Obviously, some people are early adopters. Others need help, and I think we see that. And I think we are ready when we have delivered 3 to 5 times more innovation for patients at half the cost of society. That's what we aim for with this. It's nothing else. It's not that we want to be the coolest company in the world or whatever. We want to do value for the external world. And then when we've done that, we have what we need for that. That's the definition done. And the vision is to reach that 2030s. I won't say we'll be in transformation the whole time, but we will certainly iterate and see this holds us back. This if we do this we can add more value for patients, and then we'll adapt to that.
Okay, we have one more late question here. Please go into the slido.com with this last summary question. What's your biggest takeaway from this webinar on the Roche Agile transformation? So if you're a participant, please join us and answer something there so we get a little bit of feedback. But the last question for you, Christian, if you were to do this transformation now during the pandemic, how would you do it? Any difference in the approach, or would you avoid it completely until later?
We got that question because we obviously, the structure change was done from March to June, and sorry to say it was pandemic. I think in your kind of quest for making difference, I think you should not take considerations on pandemics or life crisis or whatever. This is a bigger purpose. This is to make it happen for patients that are waiting. And for me, we were guided by some global leaders saying, don't do it now, don't do it that. I think again, it's if you believe in the purpose, if you believe in the mission you have, you can pull this through in a COVID situation or any other situations. It's not relevant. You need to adapt. You need to change the settings. A lot of things were done virtually, of course, but I think again, you can do inclusion. You can listen to people also through other ways of meeting face to face. But we were lucky. We started the culture transformation in 2018, did it over 2019, and then obviously 2020 has been a lot around the structure and really bring it to life. And that's been done in very much a virtual way. But you can pull it through. If you believe in the value, you can do it at any point, I would say.
It's a great way to end this seminar, I think. And thank you so much, Christer, for joining us and sharing your views and your hard-earned experience. Do you have any final things that you want to share with us before we start wrapping up?
Oh, not really. I think again, I'm really appreciated that people took the time to listen in. As I said, this is not to shy off or say we are better than anyone else. We done I think an amazing journey. I think in pharma is really strange environment, and we can still pull it off. And I think that's amazing. And I think for me, it's been such an engaging journey to take us through. Again, I should have no credit on this. These are, as I said, 90, 100 people that has been behind this, and I think that's been really, really, this is their work. I'm just
you are modest. You are modest, Christian. You are correct, but you're also a big part of this, in my view. It's my perspective, at least. So, thank you so much. I am super excited about us having the opportunity to share this. I think there's a lot to be learned here. My perspective is that this is what I see that you've done that I think is really inspiring and is something worth really taking in. If you're an organization going through something similar, is the level of commitment from the leadership team and the level of honesty in terms of we are all going to have to be a part of this change and not trying to skip through it too fast. One of the traps you can fall through is trying to force it, right? There are many ways to force it, right? You mentioned a few of them. We want the results faster, or we want the organizational structure to change faster. We want roles we want the way of working to change faster. We want the value out to our customers to happen faster, because we just can't stand not getting the results fast, right? And that's, I think you've taken somewhat of a longer road, but you've actually, what I've seen with my own eyes, you're actually getting results faster this way. So it's actually not the slower way. It's more of a measured paced way that you're saying, we want this to be real for everybody who's a part of this journey, and we're willing to commit to that. And people sense that, right, in the human system, because we're all human, right? We understand what the agenda is, and I think you've had an honest agenda. So that's something that I think is worth considering, and it's something that I find inspiring in this story. So yeah, we're seeing all these comments. I'm not sure if there's something we want to comment on there, but
no, thank you all for your kind words. I think again, I am modest, not always, but I'm modest there. I say, if it's just one person gets inspired and do something differently, then I'm just happy. I think again, an hour and a half, it was totally thrilled to share. Sorry for the slides, but these are old slides that just put in. There's a lot of text in them, and hopefully I made it justice to share a bit on what we did and how we come along. So thank you all. Thank you, Matthias, for arranging it. It was really fun to share.
Yeah. So if you want to reach out to Christian, check his out. Find him on LinkedIn. You have his name. Check out the invitation website. You'll find him. If you want to talk about this type of journey with us, Chris, you just send an email to you find our contact information on the website. We're willing to share our experience. Roche was, you've done most of the work through your own leadership team. We've been a part of it to some extent. We've been, part of other journeys a little bit more or a little bit less, but we're very willing to share what we know. But most of all, this is, a community event. So we're really interested in hearing what your experiences are. So if you have your own experiences, please share on, please share it with us or your colleagues or everybody else. So again, thank you everybody for attending. We're a little bit late, but apologize for that, but it's time to finish off. So thank you, thank you so much, everybody, and hopefully we'll see you back here soon. Thank you, Christian.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Take care.